Hi, I'm Bob Nystrom.
Hi, this is Bo Dietl.
Hey, this is Rich Big Daddy Salgado.
Hi, this is Doug Gidney, and you're watching Sports Biz.
Sports Biz.
Sports Biz with LD.
Sports fans, this is Sports Biz with LD.
Good afternoon. My name is Larry Davis. Welcome to Sports Biz with LD. Of course, you can find us on Facebook at Sports Biz with LD. Follow me on Twitter at Sports Biz with LD. Go to our website, Sports Biz with LD, and watch past shows, interviews with athletes, win tickets, autograph, memorabilia. I don't know. There's all kinds of great stuff on there. Go on there, check it out. You will love it. Have any comments? Can it be better? Let me know. I'd love to make it better. It's all about what you see is how it's going to be better for all of us. As we always start off my chest, sponsored by the Rampart Insurance Group. They're in business for over 40 years. Reputation for quality, integrity, professionalism. You can find them, rampartinsurance.com. They do it all. Personal, commercial, life, health. You need it, they got it. rampartinsurance.com. First thing I guess we got to talk about is Michael Pineda. You know something? I should have had a little pine tar on my neck. Probably would have been funny to have a little pine tar on my neck. I just thought of that. So Michael Pineda, Wednesday night, second inning, John Farrell. You know, we spoke about this last week on our show about him having pine tar on his hands, using it in a game. John Farrell, manager of the Boston Red Sox, and most of the players on the Red Sox, and most of the players in Major League Baseball didn't even care. Didn't make such a big deal out of it. Second inning the other night, John Farrell did. Went out to the mound and asked the umpire to look at the neck, the right side of the neck. Oh, here's my right side, sorry, that was left. Right side of the neck, and there was pine tar there. They threw him out of the game. Michael Pineda, I mean, how could he think, with all the cameras and all that's going on, no one will notice? And then we have a couple of clips from Joe Girardi, thanks to the Yes Network. I want to go to them in a second. We're going to hear what Joe had to say, and of course I'm going to come back and comment. So let's go to what Joe said. Dave, can you cue that up for us? Let's see what Joe Girardi said on the Yes Network after.
He did not have it on when the game started, and I guess from what I understand, he had a hard time gripping the ball, and he put it on in the second inning. Obviously, that's a problem. We're going to have to deal with the consequences, and Michael's going to have to deal with it, but we'll get through it.
You did see it, though, when you went out there and the umpire went out there?
No, I did not. No, I did not. I never saw it on Michael, so...
I've met Joe. I like Joe. He appears to be an honest guy. But, Joe, you kidding me? You did not see him, one, apply it on his neck that you said wasn't there in the beginning of the game. Larry Rothschild, the pitching coach, did not see it. Nobody saw him on the bench apply this to his neck. And then on top of Joe Girardi saying he didn't see it. Listen, I know you got to deal with the media, and I know you don't always have to say everything that's true, but I can't see how Joe Girardi did not see that on his neck like everyone else. Come on, Joe. You didn't see it? I don't know. I mean, let's go back to Joe. He had a couple more comments, and then I'll comment on a couple of the things that Joe said.
Well, I mean, it's a young kid. I don't think he's trying to do anything to cheat. I think he's trying to just go out there and compete. It's unfortunate it happened. But as I said, we'll deal with it. We'll get through this. It's a little bump in the road, and we'll be all right.
Joe's right. They will deal with it. The interesting thing is the suspension came down. It's 10 games. And comparing it to PEDs with the drugs, the Yankees now for the 10 games will be one man down. They'll only have a 24-man roster. That's interesting, that they will not have a full roster. Now, on the PEDs, when they're caught for drugs, you're allowed to replace that player on your roster. Very interesting. And I heard that Joe Torre, ex-Yankee manager, now EVP of baseball, Major League Baseball, was on the Michael Kay show. And he told Michael asked him that question, and he said, I don't know why. He said, Michael, that's a very good question. Why is that? So we don't know why. But again, Joe's got to protect his player. He's right. He's going to miss 2 starts. It's interesting. If he was a everyday player, he'd miss a real 10 games. But as a pitcher, he pitches every 5th day. He's really going to miss 2 games. I think we got one more clip from Joe. Dave, can you play the last clip, I think, from Joe Girardi? And again, thank you to the Yes Network for these clips.
Well, that's something I'll talk with Major League Baseball. Obviously, you want guys to compete at the highest level, and you want safety, and it's something I'll talk with Major League Baseball about.
Now, Joe's also talking about that he did not like that the camera was in the dugout and was watching what was going on down in the dugout, when the players go down to the clubhouse. And he took the camera, Joe, and he pushed the camera not to be able to see where that's going. Now, Joe is saying, if they're going to go after me or suspend me, I'm going to have a problem with that because that camera does not belong over there. I don't think Joe's right. The cameras are all over the game. This is what sports is. We want to be, as they would say on Star Trek, where no man has gone before. So, I don't know. They might let it go, but I think that you're not supposed to do that. You can't touch the camera, can't switch around. And this reminded me when Joe was first hired by the Yankees. He was irritable. He didn't like dealing with the media, and he really didn't do a good job. This particular game, you could see Joe is not happy about it. And then we don't have a clip of Brian Cashman, the great GM of the Yankees. He pretty much said it's embarrassing to the whole organization what he tried to do. Now, he's saying he was trying to get a better grip on the baseball. He can say whatever he wants. It's illegal. So if it's illegal, you're not allowed to do it. Will this bother him later in the season? I really don't know. Did that really make his stuff so great that he uses pine tar? We don't know. We will see when he comes back in 10 games. But Michael Pineda, what are you doing? I mean, how do you think in today's day and age, with every camera available, everybody has a camera because we all have cell phones, that no one would see what you did? And one last thing again, Larry Rothschild, the pitching coach, he didn't know. He didn't see it. Joe had mentioned that they speak to the pitchers all the time. Nobody spoke to him about this? Again, no one saw it in the dugout? I don't know. Very shaky here. I don't know if I'm agreeing with everything that's going on in Yankee land and protecting. I like what Cashman's saying. It's embarrassing, it's unacceptable, and it won't happen again. And Michael Pineda also said it won't happen again. That won't happen again. We shall see. Let's move on to the New York Knicks. The other day, Phil Jackson, who, if you've watched the show, and you better be watching, and I hope you're watching, on the Daily Blue, that Phil Jackson with 13 titles, I'm sitting here telling you, and I've told you for a while, one, I believe Steve Kerr is going to be the head coach, and 2, how are you going to go wrong with Phil Jackson? All the guy knows how to do is win. So Phil Jackson had a press conference the other day. We have some clips. Can you guys roll the first clip of Phil Jackson?
Very sheepish about the way they ended up this season. And, vowed it should not happen again. And we emphasize the fact that, it starts now. Putting together positive mindset, positive work ethic, and coming to camp ready to play and not getting ready to play in camp in October. So that was really one of our messages to the players.
He's basically saying at the end of the year, good, bad, or ugly, they sit down with all the players, they have a quote-unquote exit interview. He's saying, again, of course, most of the players are throwing Mike Woodson under the bus. Of course, wouldn't you? Doesn't everyone do that to their boss when they get the chance? If the boss got fired, of course, it's the boss's fault. It wasn't your fault. And I get it, you're a professional athlete. Yes, Mike Woodson did not do a good job. In last week's show, I told you, Mike, you have no shot and you shouldn't be coaching the Knicks. You did a terrible job. 8-9 games under 500, you don't get in the playoffs, you don't belong coaching the Knicks, and we're not giving you a second chance. But most of the guys are going into the interview with Phil. They didn't love everything Mike did. They feel that, his coaching wasn't that good. And, them saying a sheepish, whatever they're trying to say to Phil, they're just trying to tell Phil what he wants to hear, which Phil's trying to say to them right now, starting with today's interview, you need to get better. You need to start working out, playing, eating right, doing whatever it takes. The season starts today, not at training camp, which is what he's saying that the players came to training camp last year and they were not prepared and they were not listening to Woodson from the beginning. Phil is not happy, but I believe Phil's taking the reins here. We have a couple more comments from Phil. Let's go back to Phil Jackson, courtesy of MSG, Madison Square Garden Network.
That's, I like to convince him. I like to appeal to his better nature of winning, and I think that's what we want to do.
Well, there he's talking about Carmelo, and he's trying to say to Carmelo said it's not about the money. And the great George Young, the great GM of the New York Football Giants during their dynasty years of 86 and 90 and all those great teams, always said when they say it's not about the money, it's about the money. So we will see, because we've said it before that Carmelo can make the most money with the Knicks, a max-out contract. And what basically he's saying is other teams, and I think we have the tape and we'll hear from Phil again on this, is other teams and other superstars have taken less money. And that's what he's saying to Carmelo. He's saying the guys down in Miami have all taken less money. And, they've only won a couple of back-to-back championships. I guess that worked. He's saying that Tim Duncan, the great Tim Duncan on the San Antonio Spurs, took less money. That's what he's saying is going on in this league. The superstars, you want a great team, you need to take less money. Same thing going on in OKC with Kevin Durant. Let's go back to Phil Jackson. I think this clip is what he's talking about.
Not a dynasty. I wouldn't call San Antonio a dynasty, a force, and a great force.
Well, that was him talking after he said something about Tim Duncan, that he would not call San Antonio a dynasty. I don't know if I agree with Phil. It's hard to disagree with Phil. I mean, they won 4 titles and they're on the way to 5. They almost won it last year. They fell apart against the Miami Heat. So I think that's what he's talking about. I don't think he's giving the props to San Antonio, but that's okay. He's probably giving them a little shot, letting them know that he was all about dynasties and they weren't as good as his 2 runs in L.A. and Chicago. Let's go back to Phil Jackson. I think we got another clip from him.
2 things: we weren't on the same page was the message that kind of came around, generalized in different ways. And we didn't buy in like we did the year before. Just things were just different for us this year. Were the 2 statements that I took away from that as a general whole. Obviously, we had some young players in, 4 or 5, 3 or 4 young players in that were, the first year was with the Knickerbockers, or the Knicks, I should say. As a consequence, we talked mostly about their future. A lot of the other players, we talked about the year and about how they think we can get better.
He's talking about the players. He's talking about the younger guys. And, the younger guys, as they should just sponge up anything Phil Jackson says, even though the older players should as well. Again, greatest winner in sports history in any sport. How do you not listen to every single thing he says? And then the other day on Spike Lee's radio show on Sirius NBA, he had the Big O, Oscar Robertson, who's the only player in history to average a triple-double in a season. I mean, can you imagine? This year Lance Stevenson had the most triple-doubles in the season, and he had 5. He averaged it for a season. And the Big O was on Spike Lee's show, and Spike Lee's a super fan, huge basketball fan. And the Big O basically said, Carmelo, get out of town. Because all they do and will do is kill you. They tell you should take all the shots. You take the shots, you took too many. Down at the end of the game, you try to get other players involved. You should have taken the shot. Basically, the Big O, like I just said, get out of town, get away from the Knicks, go somewhere new. Couple of landing spots for Carmelo. Houston Rockets are talking, there's rumblings there that they would love to have him, but they got to make salary cap space. Chicago Bulls, who are down 2-0 already in theirs, and we'll get to them in a second. There's only a couple of landing spots, and the Lakers, but I think with Kobe on the very, very downside of his career, only a couple of years left, I don't see Carmelo going there. And they're going to have to fire Mike D'Antoni, the coach, anyhow, because when Mike D'Antoni was here in New York, he didn't get along with Carmelo, and Carmelo pretty much got him fired. So, moving on to the next, let's talk about the NBA playoffs. First one we could talk about is the Hawks, who beat out the Knicks for the final spot in the Eastern Conference, are playing the Indiana Pacers. And the Pacers have just been going downhill I mean, they had played terrible basketball down the stretch. They ended up getting the number 1 seed because I think on the last game of the year, the Heat didn't play their top play, so the Heat lost. They ended up winning. So the Pacers are playing the Hawks. The Hawks are up 2-1 in games. What? I mean, the Pacers, I'm not saying the Pacers should be sweeping them, but, maybe they win 1 game, 2 games. The Hawks were the worst team to make it in the playoffs, and the Pacers are just not doing it. Roy Hibbert, where are you? Everyone's talking how you're the best center in the NBA, and I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it down the last month of the season. I have not seen it in the playoffs. And then there's a story out there that before game 1, Lance Stevenson, right here from Brooklyn, who's one of the greatest New York City players ever, I love his game, pretty much had a fist fight with Evan Turner in the locker room for a game. I mean, stuff like this gets out, it's believable. There's no doubt about it. Stuff like this gets out, when there's smoke, there is fire. So who knows what's going on over there, but it is not good. Can they still win the series, the Pacers? Yes. But right now, they're down 2-1, and it doesn't look that good. The next one is Chicago. Chicago's Washington. I mean, Washington's up 2-0, and they won both games in Chicago. I mean, what's going on over there? I mean, again, can Chicago still win the series? Yeah, but these Washington Wizards have a nice team. They're young. They come into the playoffs. They don't really care. Whatever happens, happens. So there's no pressure on them. And they're doing a very good job against a very good defensive-oriented team with the Chicago Bulls. Again, they lost Derrick Rose again, who's probably one of the top 5 players in the NBA. It's the second year in a row they don't have him. Hopefully he comes back strong, because you never want to see a guy go down who's healthy, who's injured and not being able to play. You hope they come back. You hope next year he comes back strong and be the player that D Rose is, one of the top players in the NBA. Then the Spurs and Dallas. Listen, Dallas won 1 game. The Spurs are the best team in the league right now. They won 62 games. That's 1-1 in that series. I mean, I don't think that's so terrible. I mean, Dallas can win a game. The other shocker, Memphis against OKC. I mean, Memphis is a good team, but OKC was one of the best teams in the league all year. They go in as a number 2 seed, and they've lost 2 games, 2 out of 3 already to Memphis, and 2 of them they lost in overtime. With their top players, Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, playing well. I mean, not shooting well, but scoring 30, 35 points a game in overtime. So, more minutes, more points. But Memphis is a nice team. Memphis is one of those teams you do not want to play when you get to the playoffs. And OKC is feeling that right now. Let's talk a little football. Again, there's so much for me to talk about. That's really the problem. I have so much. I don't know if we can get it all in. Richard Sherman. Remember him from the AFC Championship game, talking all that smack, everyone getting crazy that he's talking so much. I didn't think anything was so terrible about it. Matter of fact, I was on Neil Cavuto's show talking about that, and I told Neil I don't think that was a big deal. But now he's like everyone else. He feels he wants to get paid. He feels he's underpaid. There's 20 interceptions in 48 career games. That's pretty good. He's on the Seattle Seahawks. I don't know if you know this. They just happened to win a Super Bowl. They're a very good team, very good defensive team, probably have the best secondary in the league. But is he as good as Darrelle Revis? I don't think so. Darrelle Revis, the top corner, salary, $12 million a year. Okay? Richard Sherman, I'm thinking he's going to think he deserves to make the same amount of money. Then you got Brandon Carr on the Cowboys. He's making $10 million. Then you have Leon Hall on the Bengals, making 9.7. And those are 2 guys who aren't household names. So how those guys are getting that kind of money, I don't know. That'll be a good example for Richard Sherman to say, hey, what about me? He should be up there with them. If he uses that as an example, that's a good example. Because those guys, again, no one really heard of them. What are they doing making that kind of money? And he just won a Super Bowl, and he's in the final year of his rookie contract. Does he deserve it? Listen, get as much as you can. In the NFL, where there's no guaranteed contracts, you could be gone. And then what happens? Your career's over, you get injured. Guys get injured all the time. That's what the NFL does. And then if you don't have a contract, you don't get paid. Not fair. That's the way the NFL is. Not like the other sports where there are guaranteed contracts. Another interesting thing is Herschel Walker at 52 years old, is out there saying he could play in the NFL. I think he said this a couple of years back, too. Now, Herschel Walker is very interesting. Guy's in phenomenal shape. He was in the MMA for years also. And his workouts were legendary in a different way. Like you would see guys, like I remember the great Walter Payton, they used to show him running up hills and mountains and then going to the stadium and running up the steps, I don't even know how many times. Herschel Walker never worked out with weights. Every day he would do 1,000 push-ups and 1,000 sit-ups. I don't even know if any of us can do 10 or 20. Let alone that's what the guy's workout was. No weights, 1,000 push-ups, 1,000 sit-ups. And I think he also said that if Donald Trump does buy the Buffalo Bills, and he knows Donald because when Donald in the USFL, Donald owned the New Jersey Generals, Herschel played for him. Herschel's like, he would call Donald up. He would see if the Donald would take him on the Buffalo Bills. And, knowing the Donald's all about marketing and can we win and being the best, it's possible. Today, as we tape, it's a 10-year anniversary right around this week of Eli Manning getting drafted and saying before the draft, during the draft, and right after when San Diego took him, I'm not playing for San Diego. He's not playing there. And there, Ernie Accorsi, who was the Giant GM at the time, made the trade. Eli Manning comes to the Giants. Phillip Rivers goes to San Diego. Rest is history. Eli comes here. You like how I have his brother's helmet here, Denver Bronco helmet here today. Eli Manning comes to the Giants. Only wins 2 Super Bowls, 2 MVPs, Super Bowl MVPs. Comes to New York and puts himself on the Mount Rushmore of superstar players in New York, because as we all know, here in New York, it's all about the playoffs. As we learned from the great George Steinbrenner, it is all about the playoffs. Another thing I want to talk about is Jason Collins, who came out as the first gay athlete playing for the New Jersey Nets. Now they are the Brooklyn Nets. He played for the New Jersey Nets when Jason Kidd, who's the head coach, played there as well. So Jason Collins goes back a long way. And Time Inc. put him as one of the top 100 influential people in the world. I mean, how great is that? I mean, one, we shouldn't even be talking about it, but what's the difference if you're gay? Who cares? But it's the world we live in. So he came out as the first gay athlete, professional athlete. Now different people are following suit, whether it's professionals, whether it's amateurs. This is great. This is the way it should be in this world. We all should be as one. And then each person gets to get someone to write a little something, a little essay or something. Chelsea Clinton, that's President Clinton's daughter, who I think I saw in the paper the other day. I think Dave Martin, our producer, mentioned to me that she's pregnant. She wrote the essay about Jason Collins, how great he is, and how great it is that he came out and he is going to be the person out there for everyone to look at and respect. Great guy, very well educated. I don't know. I mean, I don't know any other as many gay players, but what a great guy to represent all of them coming out in professional and amateur sports. It's amazing. We're almost done here. I'm working on for next week's show to have a friend of mine, Mookie Wilson. Mookie Wilson came out with a book. His days as the Mets, the championship years, all that good stuff. Trying to get him in studio. That's going to be next week. I'm not sure what day. Might tape it on a different day. Maybe not. I will speak to Mookie next week. I want to thank Rampart for being a sponsor. Gotta love it. The Rampart Group, RampartInsurance.com. Again, SportsBiz with LD Facebook, the Twitter, @SportsBiz with LD, SportsBizWithLD.com. Go on there, see the old shows, see all that great stuff. See if you can win tickets and sports memorabilia. And of course, I got to thank the Daily Blue, my partner. Love being here. I appreciate you watching. Thanks again. I'm Larry Davis, and this is Sports Biz with LD.